industrial foundation could grow. In Bangladesh, this is weaker. So in Bangladesh, this rent-seeking activities, grabbing, and public sector plundering, and commission taking, bribing, these forms of rent-seeking activities is much more stronger in Bangladesh. And therefore, our government study is saying that about now unearned income or illegal income equals to about 56 to 80% of GDP. 55 to 80%. It ranges from 55 to 80% because estimating this so-called black money or this underground economy, hidden economy, illegal economy, it is very difficult. So it could range from 55 to 80%. It is also stated by Finance Minister in the last budget.
Can you state it again a little more exactly? What country and please, I want to write it down.
Bangladesh. In Bangladesh, 55% to 80% of the illegal economy equals to 55 to 80% of GDP. And this economy, this hidden economy, illegal economy is booming because of the policy framework, which is very compatible with grabbing, with plunder, with money, different import, export, different hidden activities, smuggling, all these things, this privatization and deregulation, all these things gave the space for this economy to grow. And in industrial, manufacturing, agriculture, and in any other countries, any other sectors, when World Bank is saying that if corruption is reduced, then GDP can grow 2 or 3% more. I don't think this is the case in Bangladesh, because this corruption and this economy, hidden economy and illegal economy, has direct link with present day consumption, present day economic activity. This hidden money is not inactive. This is active in economy. This is being invested in different sectors, and this is being used for their rampant and this shining consumerism in a country, booming. Shopping malls, if there was no corruption, these shopping malls, if there was no corruption, this real estate business, if there was no corruption and this hidden economy and unregulated economy, then these luxury cars, this private sector education, private sector healthcare could not run. In that case, curbing corruption could reduce GDP. Because this GDP is actually GDP is it is a calculation of exchange. If education, public sector education, now private sector, because of private sector education and because of private sector healthcare, GDP is increasing in say education sector and healthcare sector. But that does not mean that increase of GDP can show that this is good or this is giving more access of the people to education and healthcare. This is not the thing. So in many cases, through GDP calculation cannot show the development or people-centered development. In some cases that can be just opposite. So that is what present day development paradigm, present day policy framework, and present day ruling politics, these are all well connected, and the global institution like World Bank, IMF, ADB, or global corporations like Chevron or Asia Energy, they are beneficiary of these corrupt deals, but these corruptions are not the main cause of this phenomena. Corruption is the consequence of dominant policy framework that is giving space to the local and global groups there who are benefited from this corruption. So present day, if we want to read capitalism in peripheral countries like Bangladesh, we need to give attention not only corruption, but corruption, taking corruption as part of the policy framework and the process of capital accumulation within, not only within country, but a global phenomenon. Because the corruption in Bangladesh, countries like Bangladesh, is in another way is contributing to the global capital accumulation. That's why these corrupt governments, corrupt bureaucrats, corrupt consultants, these groups are becoming part of the global ruling class, global consultants, and global bureaucracy. And the public sector bureaucracy is accused of corruption, and after getting retirement, getting big consultancy of the World Bank. So he is contributing then more to do what is needed for this global and local capital accumulation. So here I am, and I wait for question and answer. Thank you. Please come. We have to answer some questions.
I thought you were going to do it.
So I guess first we'll just have questions and maybe short comments. If you have a long comment, you can break it down into short comments and we'll get back to you. And then we'll kind of, once the questions start fizzling out, we'll just kind of do an open discussion. Anybody can ask anybody questions. So I'll come to everybody. Start with.
Thank you so much for your talks. My question is actually about Grameen Bank. You can't talk to Bangladeshis within Bangladesh or outside about Grameen Bank or Dr. Yunus, their godlike. But I don't think issuing credit card is a way of getting out of poverty. So what role do you think this, this new booming industry has, and what's the link between, corruption, neoliberal politics, and this new micro credit industry?
Yeah, I think one.
Microcredit, I am following microcredit experience since mid-1990s. The experience, the impact, and the people's, the borrowers' relationship, economic relationship, and their economic activities. And there have been many changes within microcredit industry. Number one, there was a huge polarization. About 90% of microcredit is controlled by only 3 organizations: Grameen Bank, BRAC, and ASHA. Next 10% is done by thousands of microcredit organizations. Number 2, the NGO model in Bangladesh began with some social promises, but ended up with all these microcredit activities. Mostly NGO and different other organizations are involved in microcredit. And number 3, there are many organizations at rural level grown. There is thousands and thousands of organizations. In a village you will find 10, 15, 20, 50, 100 organizations can be found which are involved in microcredit business. So this microcredit has spread like anything. So this is a very important phenomenon in Bangladesh, this NGO model and the microcredit. But what I found that it has impact. It has linked the poor of Bangladesh country to the market. It has created a very important links. But the claim that this microcredit is the very important instrument of alleviating poverty, the study and the observation cannot find any supporting evidence of that. that is not the case. But there is a money supply, monetization has been increased, and people are very much with the money. There are other reasons of that. Common property, the people in Bangladesh, in rural Bangladesh, people, the most of the business, especially the poor people, relied mostly on common property. Common property like common lakes, common space, trees, forest, everything. But in the last 2 decades, there is so much grabbing and formal privatization. That means formal and informal, forced and legal. Privatization took place that poor people have very little common property to survive. So it's everything they have to buy now. They have to buy fish, they have to buy rice, they have to buy fruit, they have to buy everything. So monetary exchange, monetary relationship has increased like anything. It is unprecedented way. So there microcredit took the space. And I find that microcredit, the approach that microcredit can solve the poverty, it is a purely neoliberal philosophy, neoliberal model. Why? Because it does not recognize the right of the people to get their education, the state's responsibility, to get healthcare, it's the state's responsibility, to get their public utilities, it's the state's responsibility. State is withdrawing and throwing people that do whatever you do. We don't have any responsibility of yours. So you have, what you will do? You have microcredit, you do microcredit, take microcredit, and go to the market and do whatever you do. You have entrepreneurship, you are a very good, you are a very good skill personal quality, so you do whatever you do. So they are in a policy frame of a which is apparently very pro-poor, but if you go and dig it, then you will find that it is a part of the broad neoliberal phenomenon. So it helps market to grow, and it also helps many big corporations to grow. For example, Grameen Phone or Grameen Doi, they also help that, but the poverty alleviation, no.
You go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, I worked in Bangladesh for 2 years, and so I'm a little troubled by both of these talks. I think you're right in a fundamental way, but the problem with taking your approach is that it takes the focus away from the fundamental problem. You are absolutely correct that global corporations will get away with whatever they can. But the difference between Bangladesh and Pakistan and many countries in the West is regulation. In the US, companies cannot get away with the sorts of things they get away with in Pakistan and Bangladesh. I'm sure they can get away with some things, but they can't get away with the sort of things you've been describing. And the reason for this is that Bangladesh government is corrupt from top to bottom. And until that is settled, there is going to be no progress for either Bangladesh or Pakistan. And I think that we are distracting ourselves by talking about this global situation if we ignore the fact that most members of parliament collect bribes, that the bureaucracy, in fact, it's a bakshish bureaucracy. I'm quite familiar with the web of payments that goes in every direction, and yes, indeed, corporations do pay off the government in big ways. You know, in the work I was doing, I'm directly aware of exactly what is going on. But that is the problem. There are no checks and balances on the system. You can bribe your way any way you like, and there is no value on human life in a system where that takes place. And I'm afraid the accountability for that is on the Bangladesh government, and the accountability for the Bangladesh government ultimately has to be on the political system of Bangladesh. So you're right about, you're absolutely correct about the behavior of companies, about
I think they can respond.
Yes.
I think you
Go ahead.
So I agree that there are in the US or European countries, it is not possible to bribe a traffic to go in the wrong way with the car. It is not possible. But it is possible in Dhaka or maybe Karachi, or maybe in Bombay. But this is, I think the whole discussion of corruption based on this petty corruption cannot capture the whole scenario. That is the problem. What I would like to see, would like to emphasize that the global corporation cannot do anything they want in the US, but that they can do whatever they want in Bangladesh, and US embassy in Bangladesh representing US government, this US society is always pushing for that.
Yeah.
They don't, if they take this lesson, US embassy, for example, US embassy, if they take that lesson, no, Chevron cannot do this because in US we won't allow this. So Bangladesh government, we give you full support from US government to get compensation from US company. Then that will be far more consistent behavior. But BP, British Petroleum, is sitting with all these Congress members in 7 times, and I saw their faces in TV, totally humiliated in front of all these Congress members. And in Bangladesh, when Parliament Standing Committee tried to call UNOCL, that was stopped. When in Dhaka court, Chevron, there was a case against Chevron, US embassy pushed that you should not proceed with that. So these things happen. I would like to see that the regulation and the system working in the US, countries like US, should not be taken as their corporations are behaving the same way what they are behaving inside the country. So that, and the US embassies is not representing always US people. They sometimes represent, in many cases represent, the US corporations, which is US people, US citizens don't know. That's what I would like to insist.
Can I just
Yeah.
say, I mean, I think you did you very beautifully added all the pieces that, but I wanted to just, one of the pieces that you didn't address, but I would just like to say that I really would like to contest this notion that human lives are not valued in these countries, because I think that's a very problematic notion, and that's the very notion that makes it possible for the international politics and international powers to continue to do what they do in many parts of the world, because it's easy to dismiss the lives of others because they don't value themselves, so therefore their lives are not as valuable. So I just want to say that that's a very problematic belief system.
But you don't think it's true? When workers get burnt to death, you think that people value life?
And do you think, so let me ask you a question then. When you, as a country, drone attack and kill millions of people, they get burned
No,
to death?
you're talking about apples and oranges. And we're talking
Human,
about
we're
the
talking about
industrial
human life.
management.
We're
No,
talking about
we're talking about the management of a local economy in which the amount of abuse in daily life in Bangladesh and Pakistan is so astonishingly revolting, and the callous behavior of managers in the private sector. I agree as much as
Okay, I think what I'm gonna do is, I think we have plenty of time.
Right.
So I wanna get to, more of a broad discussion, and this we could come back to in the more general discussion.
Can I add to the response to his comments, please? Or do you want to?
No, we'll come back to that, so let's do questions.
In front of
I think that is,
Next question.
You said small comments are allowed.
yes, that's
No, we'll come back to it, we have plenty of time.
This is sort of intellectual. You referred to this Marxist concept of primitive capitalist accommodation. And you used that.
Accumulation.
Accumulation, yes. And there's also another concept that Joseph Stiglitz has been talking about in India recently, and in the USA, which is rent seeking, excessive rent seeking. Can you say something about the relation between these two?
these are interconnected. Primitive accumulation, capitalism, what Marx referred is initial period of Europe when it is after Columbus arrived here, and the things followed, and the colonial exploitation and plunder